Hello everyone, Sandy Clarkson here with you today, sharing an altered tag that I created for My Creative Scrapbook using the limited edition kit from September. And this paper collection that is featured in the kit is the Prima Marketing Sweet Cherry collection. And here you can see me adhering a piece of paper from one of the papers to a tag that is a 5.5 by 10-inch oversized tag. This was originally one from Creative Embellishments chipboard company, who's out of business, but you can create one of your own just by using any kind of chipboard that you have on hand, like comes on the back of our paper packs. If you don't have any of those, you can use the cereal box. Make you a few layers and you'll have you a piece of chipboard. But then you just want to cover it, and you can distress your edges with a file and with some distress ink and make them look all pretty and shabby. Here you can see me making a little nest with some Spanish moss that's been dyed green that I bought at the craft store. You can just get it any of the big box stores. But if you don't have any Spanish moss on hand, what I really like to use is to take 3 large flowers that I wouldn't use on anything else, like a 2.5, 3-inch flower that you have laying around, and either you don't like the flower, you don't like the colors, or it's just so big you don't know what else to do with it. They make great foundations for little projects like this. And there you can see me also adding in a couple of paper straws. These particular straws came from a scrapbook store. I can't remember which one, but I bought them a long time ago. You can also use any kind of paper straw that you have in your kitchen. You can use any kind of vertical element that you might have. Right there, I'm showing you a piece of chipboard that I used on another project. So I even thought about taking one of the pieces of chipboard that I didn't use in last month's kit and use that as my vertical element. But these paper straws are going to work fine. And so that's usually the 3 flowers, and then some kind of vertical element really creates a nice base for the project. So for my focal image, I'm going to use that little girl with the braids, and I've mounted her on chipboard, or corrugated cardboard, I beg your pardon. And then I've used the frame that was in the ephemera pack and cut her to fit inside that paper frame. And then I'm adding in a couple of tags that I really liked. One has the hot air balloon on it, and the other one has some really pretty flowers. And I really wanted to make that a focal element, but it didn't end up working out that way. But I do get to use it here as, a pretty primary piece. And there you can see I've got the die cut that comes in the kit. I don't know what size your die cut will be, but this one is one I cut approximately 6 by 6. And I wanted to use it as a layer. I forgot to lay it down before I added my focal area there. And so I thought I would just leave the little blooper in there and show you that, to plan ahead if you want to use something like this. It kind of creates an illusion of lace or just something frilly or interesting to add into the project. So I put it on the diagonal and added it there and adhered it to the straws. And then I come back in and I put my little focal area back down like it was. And then I'm just going to bring in some of the ephemera that was in the die cut ephemera pack, and then also some of the chipboard pieces that were from the Prima Marketing pack and also from the Stamperia pack. And right there you can see me putting in a couple of tulips or whatever they are that in the upper right hand corner. Those were from the Stamperia pack. And then that other little pink flower right there. I thought this would be a good way to use up some of the elements. And it's just a fun little project that's something a little different than doing a regular layout. I like working on these little medium-sized projects. They're fun and they're dimensional. And I've got, 8 or 10 of them sitting around on my shelves that inspire me because, I just really like them. Maybe I like the colors, or, I put some mica flakes on it, and it's shiny and pretty. And even for being as delicate, if you will, as they are, mine have held up very well. I have cleaners come in every 2 weeks and they move them around to dust, and you know, they usually end up doing just fine. And here I'm bringing in the Mr. and Mrs. Hedgehogs, if you will. One of them has, a blue necktie, and the other one has a pink bow in her hair, so I'm calling them the boy and the girl. And I'm just putting them together with some foam tape, and then I'm going to use some more foam tape to adhere them onto that um, little braided girl, and it's kind of supported by the moss and the laser cut underneath. And I didn't ahead of time use the distress ink on that, so I have to come back and ink those up. And there's just a few other pieces I'm going to have to probably stop and do that as I record here. But I also really like the fox that was in the ephemera pack, and it has a little fairy riding it, and I wanted that to kind of be front and center somewhere. And so I'm using it kind of in the lower left hand area and positioning it so that some of those flowers on that little tag are still going to show, but that this will still have plenty of support underneath right there. And it's just so cute. I really do like it. And this was an opportunity also to use some of the red flowers that I didn't know where else to use them. And then I think you just saw me putting in one of the dimensional pink flowers. And the main reason I'm using that one in that location is just to support the entire project, because it felt a little droopy over there, and it's heavier with embellishments on that side. So I wanted something to add some additional support. So I just glued that on there, and it's pretty, and it provides the support that I want. And then I've got some, extra red flowers and teal flowers and pink ones that I'm going to use up here on this project. And so I'm just auditioning them in several different places and getting them just so. This is a good type of project to also use up little bits of, acrylic mirrors or, sequins or whatever you have that you want to show, metal pieces and that kind of thing. And they're just kind of interesting. I like to do photographs, like, old vintage photographs of my parents or my grandparents and that kind of thing. And they're just kind of fun. And there I'm looking through that to see if I want to bring in a couple of chipboard butterflies. But in the end, I end up using just some regular, the ephemera die cut type butterflies. And there I'm just adding a little green piece that I didn't know where else to put it, but it needed a little something right up in there. So I just added some glue, and I'm putting it right there on the edge. And the cherries, I've got two different cherries going on there, and I planned to have them kind of diagonal from each other, but they end up being more in alignment with one another. But it's okay, because the project's so busy, it's really hard to tell what's going on, and it works just fine. I was really wanting to bring in that little rabbit that was on a circular element, but I wasn't able to find a spot for him. But anyway, I do, I think off camera, bring down a little bit of that moss just to bring in some textural dimension that kind of pulls the project together even more. These pink flowers are really pretty, and I put that one up. I put one there. I put another one up at the top. Yeah, that one right there. I really like that one in particular. And then towards the end, I add a teal one right there by the hedgehog, and that's going to be one of the last things that I do. But I tried a red one. It just seemed like it was too bold or too dark or just not in the right position. But I wanted to break up that space between the fox and hedgehog. So I bring in that teal piece. And there again, I'm trying the rabbit. I do use the swan. I might do that off camera. I'm not sure. But I do kind of tuck it behind a tag. and it is supported on the laser cut or the die cut. I beg your pardon. So I must add that afterward, but it does go behind that tag on the left-hand side. So there, I think I'm looking for, I'm looking for my butterflies, and I'm going to put them on foam tape and put them on a couple of the tags. And I could probably even use a few more if I wanted to, but I had a couple more projects to complete, so I didn't know how many butterflies I was going to have left or anything. But this is another reason why I didn't put any ties or strings on them, because I kind of planned to do the butterflies. And then at the very end, I do white paint splatters, and I do add some tulle up at the top of the tag to, make it pretty and shabby and very romantic. So here in a moment, I'm going to come on with the tag and kind of show you the dimension and what it looks like from the sides, in case you're kind of curious about that. But there'll be details in the description box about how to order a kit if you don't already have one. So here we go. Okay, I just thought I'd come back on and say that I added a few little hearts here, and one right here, one right there, one right there. And I added some pearls, and I've added some tulle up here, and I do need to add a title, so I'm going to find, one of these word phrases that will look good and put that right there. But I wanted to let you kind of see around in the edges there that, that pink flower is supporting, and the moss is supporting that side of the layout. And again, on this side, the straws here are helping to brace everything on either end. And this isn't everybody's cup of tea, but it's just something kind of fun to do every once in a while. And so I'm going to put it on a 12 by 12 piece of paper, so it's more like a tag on a layout. But anyway, just wanted you to have an opportunity to see some of the dimension. I could put mica flakes, micro beads, or anything like that, but I don't think I will. I don't think I'll do any splattering. I might do some splattering. Okay, that's it. Thanks for coming by today.